must not be obeyed. Otherwise, we might as well just put our wrists out, Patrick, and let them put the chains on now. Because if we're going to have a situation where laws are introduced we have no power over, and then we think, well, we've got to obey them because they're the law. I mean, where's the freedom in that? There is no freedom. It's all over. So we must start to, I would suggest, look at this and say, hey, and it must be done kind of en masse, otherwise individuals they get picked up. We must do this together. But it's so important we do this. Otherwise, there's no way out of this.
Yeah, you really fantasize.
The level that we're experiencing.
I really fantasize about, a billion people just ignoring these people and how powerful that would be, just to ignore them.
You've hit it, mate. Okay, I'll give you an example. The president comes out onto the lawn of the White House and he says, okay, we've had a discussion and this is what we decided to do. Now, he only has power, those that control him, really, only have that power. If the public then say, well, okay, I don't like it, but okay. If the public in large numbers say, excuse me, we're not doing that.
We're not going to do that.
The power's gone. There's no power gone. The power is in humans giving their power away, acquiescing. That's where these people get their power from, the power we give them. And again, not to fight, but not to cooperate. It's what I call the no comply dance.
No compliance.
No comply dance. The no comply dance, dancing to beating to a different drum, and where freedom and basic justice and fairness is being battered by these laws and legislation, we say, no, we're not doing it. We've got a situation in this country now, because what they're doing is they're introducing more and more outrageous laws affecting the fine detail of people's lives. And what they're doing is they're testing us out. They bring in a ridiculous law, and people go, that's ridiculous. What, big brother, what's the world coming to? And the next question should be, okay, how do we not comply with that? How do we not acquiesce to it? The next question is probably what's on the telly tonight. And you've had your moan, and then you get on with it. But one of the things that they're doing is the trash bins, what they call wheelie bins in Britain. You have to put them out on a certain day between, I think it's 7 o'clock in the morning and 7 o'clock in the evening on this particular day. If you put it out too early or leave it out too late after the deadline, you get fined something like £100, £200 or so. Also, if you leave it too close to the curb or something by a few inches, these laws have actually been enacted. Now, people moan about it and say it's ridiculous and ludicrous, but they don't do anything about it. If thousands of people in a community, when these laws were introduced and someone was fined for this ridiculous nonsense, put their wheelie bins out on the wrong days constantly every week until that law was revoked, then we'll see where the power is, because as long as it's done in large enough numbers, the control system can't cope. That's why divide and rule and intimidating us not to challenge authority, question authority, or disobey authority is so powerful to the control system. Because they, that wonderful symbolic movie called A Bug's Life, where you've got the handful of grasshoppers who are controlling the lives of millions of ants, because the millions of ants are frightened of taking a stand. Right. And then one ant stands up, and a chain of events starts that remove the power over the ant colony of the grasshoppers. And there's that wonderful, so powerful, profound scene where the leader of the grasshoppers addresses the rest of them. What they're saying is, what happens, for people who haven't seen it, is they intimidate the ants to stockpile food all the way through the year, and then once a year the grasshoppers go and take it away. And some of the other grasshoppers are basically indicating to the leader, look, we've got so much food, we don't need it anymore. We don't need this year to go to the ant colony. And the leader stands up and he said, but there was that one ant that stood up to me the last time we went. And one of them goes, yeah, boss, but it's just one ant. And then he gives them the facts of life if the few are going to control the many. And he says, if one ant might stand up, they all might stand up. They outnumber us 100 to 1. And if ever they figure that out, there goes our way of life. And that is exactly the position, Patrick, that we as a human race face. And we need to come together, not the sheep, the lion, to not to fight, not to be violent, but with immovable determination and will, refuse to acquiesce en masse with our own enslavement, and by definition, our children and grandchildren's enslavement.
Yes.
And all these dynamics are going at the same time. And these truth vibrations are urging us, they're urging us to go into these modes of understanding the true nature of our infinite power and cease to be little me, frightened of the guy in the uniform or the dark suit. Start to realize the real power is within us, not within the control system. That's what it's about. But the truth vibrations are not about fighting. They're not about hating. I feel for these people. They're just pathetic, closed down, frightened little boys in this situation.
Yes.
Like almost every bully I've ever met, they're a little boy terrified of their own shadow.
Yeah.
The bully and the bullying is the outer shield, the outer face they put to the world to hide the real frightened little boy within. And that's what these predators are like.
And it feels like to me, David Icke, that a good place for us to start, all of us who are understanding what you're saying, is that we can get along more and more with each other.
Yes.
Because that's really important, isn't it? Because there's a lot of us fighting with each other.
It's funny, you see people who are anti-war and go on anti-war marches. I'm not saying everybody. I mean, the vast majority are very peaceful people. But you see people who are anti-war who have horrendous conflicts within themselves and the aggression and what have you. And you think, well, a war is a collective version of that. So if we're going to make a contribution to bringing an end to conflict, then we have to stop having conflict between each other.
Yes.
And that applies to all of us. But again, if you go back from war and you go back down to conflict with other individuals, and then you go through that, you go into self, what's the state of most human beings? We're in a state of inner war with ourselves, not least often the war between intuitive knowing and feeling and the mind that's saying you can't do that, the five sense mind that filters everything through limitation and I can't, and you must never do that, you can't do that, you've got a mortgage, you've got a dog, you've got a wife, you can't do this, and all this stuff. And so the inner conflict becomes the externally expressed conflict, and collectively it becomes the wars and the mass violence that we see. We need to start with self, because the world is an expression of self.
So as long as we have the turmoil outside, then that means that we still, as a consciousness, as a group, we have it inside, and that what we work on the inner, then it'll change on the outer.
A very simple thing I say in my talks: if we want a world of peace, we need to be peaceful. If we want a world of kindness, we need to be kind. These are real, simple, truisms, but so often, because of the complexity that hides the simplistic genius of truth, we miss it. The complexity, we think, no, the answer can't be that simple, mate. It has to be complex.
Got to be more difficult.
It is that simple. It is. If we're all kind to each other, then we live in a world of kindness. If we're all loving to each other, we live in a world of love. And if we're all at peace with each other, we live in a world of peace. It's simple as that.
Well, we'll close with
where these presentations are taking us.
David, we'll close with the last email, and I think it's kind of just perfect for this, because Janie wants to know: do your friends and family agree with your theories and the moon and all of that? And I'm going to add to it: if they don't, how does David Icke? How do you work with that in your life?
Well. First of all, they read the books, so they see the evidence, and of course they're always around me, so they're picking up this stuff all the time, and it makes sense to them. But it wouldn't matter if they didn't, because you see, what people think of what I do and say is none of my business. This is a big thing that people miss.
That's well said, boy. Well said.
It's my business to say what I feel is the situation. But if I am then expecting people to believe it, or even insisting that they do, then I'm just another I'm just another expression of the old epoch. I'm just another guy on the stage saying, I've got all the answers, you must believe me, I'm right, and if you don't believe me, you must be wrong. That's not the dynamic that I'm interested in. I'm saying, here's some information, make of it what you will. And if someone comes along to me and says, I think you're talking rubbish, I think this nonsense, I don't agree with you, I'd say, okay, well, let's have a beer then. What do you want to talk about? What do you want to talk about? Let's talk about football or something. What do we agree on? Because it's not for me to persuade people to believe me, because that's their choice what they believe. Sure. This is what the new epoch's about. Live your truth, not what someone else tells you must believe. And if people look at my stuff and think, yeah, that makes sense, I like that. Or, I'm not sure about that, I'll put that on the back burner. That's how it should be. And then eventually we come to our own truth, because we're all possibility. There is no one truth. There's different points of observation.